Welcome to Cascadia Daily News. Today we're here with Kamal Bhachu, the Republican candidate for State House of Representatives in the 42nd District, Position 2. I'm Dean Wright. With me are Ron Judd, CDN's executive editor, our publisher, Cynthia Pope, and CDN reporter Charlotte Alden, who's covering this race. Ron and Cynthia are voting members of the CDN editorial board. As with previous elections, we're using the Citizens Agenda approach in covering this election and to help making endorsement decisions.
We really appreciate you being here to participate in that process.
So before we start, I want to say thank you for this opportunity, for having me here. And I was looking forward to this. And let's get started. And hopefully we'll keep it nice and short.
So the first Citizens Agenda question that was on here was what will you do about the housing crisis, not just the lack of stock, but the lack of average and middle class affordability and predatory investors and landlords. And in your answer, and thank you for submitting those answers, you noted that we need to do more construction of multi-unit housing, even though we've been doing some of that, and needing to expedite the permitting process. What about zoning laws? Should zoning laws be updated to help alleviate the problem?
I would say so. Depends on the area. If you need to relook into some of the neighborhoods that have bigger lots, and can those lots be subdivided and turn them into smaller lots? Birchwood is a perfect example of that. They have a pretty decent sized lots. And can those lots be utilized to subdivision, or can there be, I've noticed people are building some ADUs, but can we do more of that in different areas? So look into the zoning laws as well.
And how do we protect renters from landlords and excessive rent increases? There have been numerous reports of big increases, certainly after COVID.
Mm-hmm. It has came up. I mean, it's been coming up for a while. And how we do that, we have to collect the information, how often it's being done to people. And if there is a rent increase and how often that happens, and by how much, and by how much percentage people do their rent increase. Are they keeping up with inflation? Then that should be okay, because people, the landlord, they also have to pay for the repairs when tenant move out. So they also have to take all of that into consideration. And if there are people that are taking advantage of tenants by raising their rents by a lot, then we should look into that and see if you could do something about that at the legislator level.
So the next Citizens Agenda question had to do with education, and it's what will you do to bring fair and equitable funding to all public school districts in Washington, and is the state's adjustment factor working? And you noted that some school districts have fallen through the cracks, and you cite Blaine, for example. What's happened in Blaine?
So Blaine, their enrollment has been down by quite a bit. And also, given the fact that Blaine, their economy highly depends on Canadian traffic, how much Canadians are coming over the border and spending their money there. Their tax collection has been down, and also there hasn't been a whole lot of development in Blaine. So amount of taxes that city collects is down. And my understanding is schools are funded by state and local taxes. So local taxes are down. So Blaine has to cut services. They had to lay off some teachers, some sports support staff, and also library staff also been laid off. And those services are very important for any student to thrive. I was recently doorbelling in Point Robert. The concern was brought up by a parent that Blaine School District had to eliminate the bus service to Point Robert. And now parents have to drive their kids to school. and that is not good because parents, they have to work now. They have to carve time out of their schedule to drop their kids off at Blaine School. So that's what I was talking about when I was referring to Blaine has fallen through the cracks.
I think we'll have some more questions about education a little later, but I just want to make sure I can get these other citizens' agenda questions in here. The third one was on, do you think the current state infrastructure, utilities, transportation, parks, et cetera, is up to the standards that taxpayers expect? And if not, what specific things would you do to change that?
So when it's come to infrastructure, I believe we can always do more. When it's come down to putting in more charging station for electric cars, and more. I've been driving around a lot throughout the county, and I noticed there's a lot of construction going on as far as improving the roadways go. I've noticed there's construction going on Guide Meridian when we're heading into downtown Bellingham area. They put in a brand new roundabout there. And also on Hannigan, they put in a new roundabout there and made some good repairs in that area. And Ferndale overpass, they did that there. So things are happening, but it's going to take time to catch up. The repairs that weren't made during COVID, and so it's being done, but it's going to take some time. The area that I would like to pay special attention to is our bridges. I think bridges can use some more routine maintenance and taking care of those infrastructures.
One part of infrastructure that sometimes isn't thought about, but that's become increasingly important is access to the internet. Do you have any ideas on how you can expand access to the internet more broadly to people?
A few years ago, they have talked about that making internet accessible via the public utility via PUD, and that is one of the ways. But also, we have to bring in other private investors that are private companies. Comcast have done a great job, and there are other companies that have done great things in different areas. And I personally like to use Skylink. That's something that I like, and it has worked really well.
Anything that the legislature can do to help?
Legislators could maybe bring in more competition. So more competition we have, consumer can find better rates and hopefully better services.
The next question was on your stance on State Initiative 2117, which would repeal Washington's Climate Commitment Act. And you said you support repeal, and that we need a more effective approach to dealing with climate change. Can you elaborate on what that more effective approach might be?
So when I say we need more effective, what I would like to talk about is, since we have talked about affordable housing, and affordable housing, then also comes homelessness. So if people are paying more money at the gas station, what they're doing is increase the cost of goods that truckers had to move around throughout the country. So what that does is pass down the cost on fuel down to the everyday people like me. And so when that happens, now I have to cut in other areas that I like to spend my money in, such as other activities. So now, if the cost of living has gone up, but the cost of, let me rephrase that. So if the cost of goods are going up, that means I have to either find another job or look elsewhere to cut my cost of living. So, and I don't think that's is helping anybody to survive on what they're making. And when you pay extra at the gas station, and it's not really helping the low income families, and people are only one paycheck away from losing that. So,
Well, if I understand what you're saying, if that's not working, what other approach would you have to combating climate change?
so if we want to truly combat climate change, we all have to play a significant role, like each and every one of us. So it's not just because we can pass legislation and that will help. And because everyday folks, what we're doing with our lives, and are we turning off the lights when when we're at home? And another example that I would like to bring up, when it's come down to environment preservation, is some of the homeless encampment. If you really look at those are not really helping us to combat some of the issues that we're having with the environment. People are out in those encampments. They're using drugs in that environment, and they are out defecating in that environment. So they are living in those bad conditions. So when there's rain or other things are happening, so that water is going somewhere and is going straight into the ground or is going into our other water streams, and that's not helpful either. So.
Okay. The one question that has always been of interest to our readers, as long as we've been doing the Citizens Agenda process, has been about healthcare, and specifically about PeaceHealth. Now, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but according to your website, you actually work at PeaceHealth.
I do, yes.
Question was, what can we do to ensure that PeaceHealth and other hospital groups in the state provide price transparency and screen patients for financial assistance eligibility?
So let's address the screening patient for price assistance. PeaceHealth is already doing that. Perfect example would be in 2009, I went to India to meet my relatives. When I came back, from there I contracted salmonella. And so I had to admit it to the ER, and then from there I was in their, I wasn't in the ICU, but it was isolation care. So I was there for roughly 5 days, and I didn't have a job at that time. So my total bill, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $30,000. And PeaceHealth has this great program, which is the Bridge Assistance Program. And all they needed to see my 3 months pay stubs. And every single penny was forgiven. So, and when it comes down to price transparency, I don't think it's that easy to make price available. The reason why I say that, because you have to take into account people's age, their pre-existing conditions. You have to take those into account. And it's not like you're going to a car mechanic where they can print you out a rough price and here you go, it's going to cost you $800, but we're talking about here humans. So I believe we had to get in touch with PeaceHealth and push them forward and see if they could do this, or other hospital could do this. And that's the approach I would take. Maybe go rally the community, see if they could approach PeaceHealth and see if they could provide with some type of a pricing. But that's what I would do.
Okay. Ron, I believe you have some questions.
Yeah, you talked about a little bit about the Climate Act thing and the things that you described that should be done to better combat climate change. Sounded like a lot of personal choices. made by ordinary people on a regular basis, right? And I'm curious whether you think that there is an appropriate role for state government in determining those steps that need to be taken to combat climate change.
I think it's already being done by the state, and such as looking at electric cars. There are some incentives that are coming in for people to buy electric cars. That's another way that we can combat climate change. And the thing I also brought up, turning off lights, and there are a lot of the buildings that are being retrofitted by better lighting, such as LED bulbs that consume less energy. There are other things that we can look into,
So you think it's okay to have standards set by the state or cities, municipal governments for those sorts of
there should be,
improvements?
yeah, I would say that, but at the same time, we also have to give people the incentives. If we could make incentives available, people would more likely to take advantage of those things. But also, I believe that we can't just mandate our way out of everything. We also have to give people the choice to choose and how they choose to do things also.
Okay.
So,
Charlotte, you've been covering this race. I know you have some questions.
Yeah, I have a few questions about education. On the earlier question about fair and equitable funding for public school districts, Blaine is one of the districts in Whatcom County that's struggled with a declining regionalization factor. So they decreased from 14% last year to 12% this year, which results in less money from the state. I wanted to ask if you think, or I guess I wanted to ask, is there a better funding model for Washington's school system, given that, for example, Blaine has been affected by the regionalization factor, and then in general, school funding not keeping up with inflation?
mm-hmm. For that, I will have to get back to you on that, because I'm not completely familiar with everything. So if you guys don't mind, I would like to get back to you on that.
Sounds good. I wanted to ask, I had some questions from your website, from your campaign website. You wrote that Washington's school system is a, quote, area of great concern. And I wanted to ask you what you meant by that exactly.
What I meant by that was that we need to work on our education better, meaning that we have to get back to basics. We have to get our kids ready for the future, because the future is changing very rapidly. Because perfect example would be, I grew up in India, and the way their education is completely different what we have here. And we got to get back to the basics, math, arithmetics, reading and writing. And there are a lot of the kids that are graduating with, I personally know kids that are graduating with D's and C's. And we have dropped our standards. Our standards got to come back up, or we will not be competitive on the international levels. So we got to do that. And another concern that I have, we talked about that a while back, that more vocational type educational choices, we got to have those in schools. And you brought up the guided reading. They have a great program that I don't think is up and running yet, but that I believe that is a great start. When I went to Bellingham High School, they had a really good construction technology program there, and then they had machining, CAD program, something that I learned at Bellingham High School, and we need those type of programs in schools. So that's what I meant by great concerns.
When you mentioned back to basics in terms of curriculum, would you say you're against different mandates that have come down from the state about expanding, for example, LGBTQ history in schools, or education specifically on marginalized communities?
When you say marginalized community, what do you mean by that?
I think that one is particularly related to Indigenous people and Black people and people of color.
I'm a person of color also.
Yes.
So So what we need to do, that we need to keep politics out of schools. I have no problem with, marginalized communities or LGBTQ communities, but I think our schools are becoming more political. Their kids are being more politicized, so that's what I meant. Kids need to go to school to get education and then make their decisions after that. And I think when it's come down to teaching my kids about race, I think I can do a far better job than a teacher. So, I have my own lived experiences, and I think I can do a much better job. So that's what I meant. Yeah.
Connected to that, you also mentioned on your website that, quote, radical ideologies from across the country have led to issues with education, crime, and cost of living. Is that what you're referring to there? Or what kind of radical ideologies are you referring to with that statement?
When I said that, I meant by that how our police officers aren't being able to do their job. They can arrest somebody, but they can't put anybody in jail right now because obviously we don't have a adequate jail. And then pursuit laws that recently been changed a little bit, and those type of ideologies. And when police officers are being called a cab, all cops are bastards, and that is not the right thing to do either, because those guys are putting their life on line every day. I've done several ride-alongs with police officers, and I think our politicians have failed to do that. They got to at least do a ride-along with a police officer and see what they got to live with every day, day in and day out, their mental health problems that they go through in their personal lives. So.
Just one last question related to education. The Linden School Board recently sent a letter to local legislators, Joe Timmons, Alicia Rule, and Sharon Shoemake, asking them to review transgender inclusion in high school sports. What's your perspective on this issue?
That would be, I'll have to look more into it, but I personally think if I have a daughter that is competing in track and field or swimming, I believe there should be a better way of separating whether they're guys or transgender community or girls sports. So I have no problem with people competing, but I think people should compete in their own gender class.
Sounds good. I have a couple more questions about different initiatives. I know we talked earlier about the initiative to repeal the Climate Commitment Act. And we've talked about this a little bit before, but I wanted to ask you about your position on Initiative 2066 on natural gas.
Mm-hmm. Again, going back to that, people should have a choice how they want to heat or cool their house. And if you were to eliminate all the natural gas, then where we go from there? There are thousands of houses are out there that will have to be retrofitted. To retrofit a house, it would cost, depends on what you're retrofitting. It could cost somebody anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000, and I don't think I have that. And like I said, we can't legislate our way out of everything, but there should be a choice. So that's all I'm asking for. Yeah.
And then I wanted to ask you your position on Initiative 2109 on repealing the capital gains tax.
Capital gain tax, what it does is so the limit is, I believe, is $250,000.
Yes, for any capital gains.
Yeah. So it's not helping a business to come into Washington State. If somebody is making more than $250,000, such as small business owners, it's not really good for them. And let's say if there's a person who wanted to open up their own business and are entrepreneurs and head into school and get a better degree so they could make more money. And I don't think we need to punish anybody. All we're doing is just pushing those people out of the state. So why would somebody want to stay here if we're going to punish them for making more money and hopefully employing more people in this state? So
To specify, the capital gains tax only affects people's capital gains, so stocks and bonds, not income. And it only affected about 55 people in Whatcom County this year.
are we talking about Whatcom County, or we're talking about the entire state of
It
Washington?
is the entire state. It is the entire state. But I was just mentioning the local numbers.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to clarify your answer, add any more to that.
No, because business owners do invest in stocks and other bonds and other things. So, yeah.
So that law has been on the books now, though, for how long? The capital gains tax, I can't remember when it was established. But it's been around.
Yeah.
Two
So,
couple of years.
based on what you're saying about it being a wet blanket on entrepreneurship, do you think that people have left the state who are going to want to start businesses already? Wouldn't that have already happened? And has that happened? Do you know?
I don't know. I'll have to look into those numbers. But to me, that would be discouraging for anybody to make over that amount of money. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. We've had major flooding and heat waves in this area in recent years. What's the future of farming here in the 42nd District? And what can you do in the legislature to support the local farm economy?
I would have to say the biggest issues that are facing the local farming economy would be the water adjudication. So that's a big one right now that I can think of. And other things that we could do to support local farming, to maybe have our produce go to other countries, such as if you could have a local port here that would ship stuff to Asia or other countries, that could also help, because we produce lots of blueberries here and raspberries and other local produce that could help the local farming, and that could happen at the local legislature level. But
Where would this port go?
it could go in our, it could go over by where we have BP.
At Cherry Point?
Cherry Point, yeah.
Cynthia?
You've run for county and state office in the past and are running again. What motivates you to run in public office?
What motivates me that I want to serve my community. So the biggest reason is when I moved here from India, we came here with nothing. So everything that I have is purely because of this country. It may sound cliche, but that's the truth. And it's my moral duty to give back to the community. And I believe I have ideas and willing to work hard and willing to work with anybody and everybody to better the life of everyday folks like me. That's why it motivates me to run and not give up. So that's one of the main reasons.
Is there anything specific you'd like to change? Is there specific legislation you'd like to see passed?
What I would like to see personally is maybe make our area more business friendly. Washington State is not that business friendly. I have talked to local business owner. They said there are so many regulations. Perfect example would be I met this lady. She has a portable coffee stand. There was one thing that she had her portable coffee stand made in somewhere else, it's out of state, but those regulations aren't streamlined. So in order to, they have to install a grease trap in that coffee maker, even though they're not dealing with any grease whatsoever. So they had to have that grease trap in there and also had it vented out. So that costed them money. It delayed their project a little bit more. And so things like that I would like to look into. And hopefully we could make some changes and encourage more people to be entrepreneurs. That's what I would like to see.
One national issue that always seems to become an issue in legislative races and in state races is reproductive rights. And the state of Washington has passed some pretty strong legislation protecting reproductive rights. Yet there are neighboring states, Idaho, for example, and other states that are far more restrictive. And one issue that has come up is that some of those states have passed legislation that would make it illegal for women to go to other states to obtain abortions. Should Washington be a sanctuary for reproductive rights?
Here's my answer, I will tell you. I am a Sikh man, and I believe in preserving all life, every life. And not sure if you guys may know this, a person who brought abortion issue to the forefront, his name was Joel Pritchard, and he was a Republican. When he brought that up and Democrats were opposing him. So my faith teaches me to show grace to people, especially women, and my faith teaches me that this entire world starts with a woman and stops with a woman. So what I would like to see more choices before people think about abortion. Let's make easier to adopt a child. In order to adopt a child, people have to jump through a lot of hoops. Let's make that easier. Let's give them other choices, like give them a choice that you have. If you need to go to school, your school is paid for, we can help you with that. If you need housing, we can help you with housing. So those type of services I would like to see before people considering getting an abortion. So.
Do you think that those should be publicly funded?
Everything is publicly funded right now. We're funding homeless camps. We're building bigger lighthouse mission. So why can't we fund those? Example I would like to give you, a friend of mine, she is a BSN right now. She served in the military for 4 years, single mother. She wanted to get college tuition funding. All she wanted was college tuition paid for by the state. But what the state said that you had to go on food stamps and quit your job. I don't think that's fair. If people wanted to, why can't we come up with a program where people don't have to go on food stamps? So we're not encouraging somebody to quit their job. So, for example, this gal got out of the Navy. She was a nurse in the Navy, and our state law is, or the rule is that, if you come out of Navy or any armed force services as a doctor or at least for a nurse, that you cannot come out of the service and be a nurse. You have to start from the beginning. How's that fair? If she can treat the soldiers who were wounded, why can't she come out and be a RN or a BSN or a nurse or LPN? So she had to start from the beginning, and state wasn't willing to help her unless she were to go on food stamps. So I would like to change that rule if states allow me to. I want to get rid of that And I would like to make sure if a person like that comes out of Armed Forces Services, would like to go into business degree or be a RN or BSN, let's give them help. And as they start to make more money, let's decrease those services. So that's what I would like to see. I want to empower people. I want to empower women. So that's what I would like to see.
So just to circle back on
Sure.
this issue of sanctuary for women who come from outer state for an abortion, should the state of Washington protect the privacy of those women so that they cannot be prosecuted in their home state?
So in the state of Washington, people have spoken that they want to have abortion in the state of Washington. As a legislator, it's my duty to uphold the law. So that's what I would do.
So you would not support legislation that would further restrict the right to abortion in Washington?
I think in the state of Washington, people have spoken.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about issues here. Let's talk about something a little more personal.
Sure.
You know, we all have people who have inspired us, made us who we are. Who are your heroes, your heroines?
Oh, good question. Number one would be it's my mom. So, and yeah, I'm sorry, it's emotional. And second person would be my brother. Next person would be my wife. So my mom, she came here with no formal education. She has so much pride in herself that she's still working at age 70. And she taught me how to work hard. Sorry, it should not be.
All right.
And my brother's my hero too. You know, when my sister was diagnosed with cancer, and at age 19, he was working 2 jobs to make ends meet. And he was driving every day to Children's Hospital to take my sister back and forth. And then was my wife, and she's a cancer survivor herself, and one of the hardest worker I know. So my 3 heroes.
Excellent. One of the things that's happened in this country is an extreme polarization. What would you do in the legislature to work across the aisle to actually do more cooperation with your Democratic colleagues if you're elected?
I personally think that politics is easy, but we make it hard. Instead of looking at that everything that we do, we're there to serve people, not our party lines or personal interests. Be willing to step over the party lines and reach across the aisle. Democrats, they have great ideas too, and also Republicans. Not all Republicans are racist. Not all Democrats are bad. You know, we have more in common than not. You know, at the end of the day, what we want safer community, better schools, and housing access to, you know, those type of things. We want to make sure our basic needs are met. At the end of the day, crime affects us the same way. Drug use, drug issues, they all affect us the same way, regardless of your party lines. So I think we need to just stop getting into each other's faces. Let's just work together and make this world a better place, or this county a better place, or this city a better place. So
The presidential candidate of your party has refused to accept the result of the 2020 election. Do you have confidence in the integrity of elections in the state of Washington?
that is a great question. And there had to be evidence that if there's any type of cheating going on, which I'll personally have to see it. So I have not seen it yet.
You haven't seen?
I haven't. And it's just simple math, I would say. More people get out, more people you can inspire to come out and vote. And I think over time people have lost their trust in the process. But I think instead of just complaining and blaming, we just have to do our duties. The state of Washington to vote for somebody is very easy. All you have to do is just fill out your ballot, and there's a way to track your ballot. It's not very hard. And I have done a video on that. It's like, this is how you do it. And if you want to find out, who's donating to what candidate, go on PDC and look it up for yourself. So you just have to vote and show up and do it.
So just to be clear then, you will accept the results of the election as certified by the Secretary of State in the Whatcom County Auditor.
I have done it twice. Yeah, I won't be out I won't be out protesting.
Okay, we've asked a number of questions of you here. Is there anything we haven't asked you that you'd like to make a point about? Anything you'd like to say to convince us to endorse you, or convince the voters to endorse you by voting for you?
The only thing I would like to say is what I said before, that just trust the process, come out and vote, and don't vote for the party line, vote for the policies. And whoever you think can make the community better, you should pick. And that's all I have to say.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. I always say that democracy depends on people who are willing to become candidates and make the sacrifices that happen, in terms of time and money. It's really astonishing that people do this, and you deserve a lot of credit for coming forward and being a candidate. The other thing that makes democracy work, of course, is having an aggressive press that can question candidates and a public that's willing to be informed. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.